Assalamu alaikum. Have you noticed that as you've gotten older, it's harder for you to lose weight and it seems like your hormones are working against you, your energy levels aren't good, you get bloated super easily, even if you eat stuff that you used to be able to get away with eating when you were younger, and now you're in a position where you just need to figure out how to get in shape in a time-efficient, sustainable way, fix your energy levels, restore the way that you looked and felt in your prime, and do it in a sustainable way? Well, if that's you and you're sitting here right now and you're nodding your head and you're thinking, hey, you know what, this is exactly what I'm here for, then let's dive in and I'm going to show you, inshallah, how to reverse the aging process. Okay, so I've put together, as usual, a nice in-depth slideshow for you. So we're going to dive in today and I'm going to try and make this one under an hour, as I always say. So we'll see if I actually succeed in making this under an hour and make it succinct enough for you. So how do you reverse the aging process? We're going to talk about why some people get out of shape when they get older and why others actually get into the best shape they've ever been in when they get older. Okay, so first and foremost, let's talk about why people get out of shape when they get older. The first reason is because you have more stress and you have less time to hit the gym, to meal prep, to do all this other stuff, right? When your stress levels are high, then you have a hormone called cortisol that goes up, and more cortisol means more appetite for unhealthy foods, more storing fat in your belly when you do start to gain fat. And that's why a lot of people end up getting a huge belly, even if their face stays lean or doesn't gain a whole lot of fat, or maybe even their arms still don't have any fat or that much fat. Their belly is where they store most of their fat, and it's also usually the last place to lose fat, especially if your stress levels are high and your hormones are kind of, in this sort of situation that we're going to be talking about today and how to fix it, okay? If you have less time working out, you also burn less calories because you start having a more sedentary and less active lifestyle. You have less time to cook, which means less healthy eating, more eating out, or more eating foods that are maybe prepped by, your parents or your family or whatever it may be. Or, obviously it depends. Like I have a lot of people who, they live near their parents, and so their parents will send food and they're busy and all that stuff. Or maybe their wife doesn't have an issue with, gaining weight, or their husband doesn't have an issue with gaining weight. So they just make all this oily, unhealthy food. So you end up eating all that because you don't have the time to prep the healthy foods for yourself. Okay. So if you have junk food cravings, you're eating out and you're eating a lot of family food made by, the old school generation that doesn't believe in healthy eating, that actually believes in maybe being even more overweight, because obviously back in the day when there was more famine and stuff, it was advantageous to be more overweight. You might find that the older generation just doesn't understand your desire to lose weight and get healthy and eat healthier foods and not put a ton of oil on your food, right? So you add all those together and that's what causes a lot of, weight gain in addition to being less active, okay? When you get older, your stomach is more sensitive and your hormones are also less robust, which means you can't get away with the same, junk food eating that you might have been able to easily get away with when you were younger. Now, another reason for this is that as you get older, your growth hormone levels decline, and this negatively impacts your nutrient partitioning. And so what ends up happening is if your nutrient partitioning is working less effectively and your insulin sensitivity isn't as good, which is also something that happens as we get older, what ends up happening is more calories that we eat get stored as fat and less go towards muscle building, energy, and repair. So our body becomes more efficient at storing calories as body fat as opposed to utilizing those calories for energy. And when we combine that with unhealthy eating and not having the best macros, so usually most people don't eat enough protein, they eat too many simple carbs and fats and not enough complex carbs and fibers, and so ultimately the body becomes very efficient at doing all the wrong things, aka gaining fat, not having energy, and ultimately, declining as we get older, okay? And if you don't work out consistently, this is another reason why insulin levels go down, insulin sensitivity goes down, and why people gain weight very easily, okay? So there's a lot of different factors at play, which is why a lot of people get out of shape when they get older, okay? Men's testosterone levels also decline every single year after the age of 35, okay? So there's another reason why men lose muscle, and this causes them to then, of course, their metabolism slows down because muscle burns a lot of calories, and so you end up gaining fat even more rapidly. Your hormones end up getting even worse. Everything just kind of goes downhill. And another thing I'll mention too is cortisol actually makes you age faster. So a lot of things like dark circles under the eyes, wrinkly skin, just looking and feeling older, being tired and stressed. All of this is all kind of part of the same thing. Now for women, the progesterone to estrogen balance can start to get off balance and you become estrogen dominant, okay? And this is also something that happens as men's testosterone levels go down, body fat goes up, estrogen goes up, which further makes testosterone levels go down. When both men and women have excessively high levels of estrogen and we're not eating enough fiber to get rid of that estrogen, and we're not implementing the right practices to optimize our hormones, bring our cortisol down, that estrogen causes us to retain water, feel tired, feel moody, have all kinds of other negative symptoms. For men, erectile dysfunction is something that can sometimes happen. When this happens is that testosterone goes down, estrogen goes high. So obviously that's an issue. with your wife, and it can start to affect your relationship. Okay, for women as well, periods can become irregular. You might start missing some periods, even if you're not even remotely close to the age where, your ancestors had menopause. Okay, so maybe your mom had menopause at, 49 or 50 or 51, right? But you're like 45 and you're already getting these issues. Or maybe you're 35, or maybe you're even in your 20s and you're a woman watching this and you're already getting irregular periods, or libido is off. This is another thing that happens when our hormones are off. And a lot of this is caused by estrogen dominance, whether it's estrogen relative, high estrogen relative to testosterone levels for men, or whether it's high estrogen levels relative to progesterone for women. And this can cause some issues. And another thing that happens is, some women, maybe their first kid, they lose the weight easily. Their second kid, they lose weight easily. But the third kid, all of a sudden they got a lot of weight that they have gained that they can't lose. Or maybe it's after the first kid, or maybe it's after the fifth kid or the sixth kid. Happens differently to every single different woman. But, obviously the more kids you have, the more stress you have because you're taking care of all these kids, especially if you're working as well. And so ultimately it becomes difficult. And even for the men, it becomes very difficult when you have more kids. If, your kids are keeping you up in the middle of the night, you're doing a lot of daddy duties, whatever it may be. That definitely adds to the stress, takes away from your sleep quality, increases your cortisol. So there's so many reasons why people get out of shape. But don't worry, there's a lot of solutions. I know I'm talking about all the problems right now. We're going to dive into the solutions, okay? So, yes, but that's the thing, is that when you have more estrogen, you end up gaining even more weight from it and struggling to lose it. And then the other thing is that the more body fat that you have, the more that your body is producing estrogen, okay? So there's an enzyme called aromatase that is inside of your body fat that converts testosterone into estrogen. And so the more body fat you have, the more estrogen you have, but then also the more estrogen you have, the more body fat you have, because you become more efficient at storing fat, you have more water weight, you become more tired, less motivated, and so you end up being more susceptible to eating junk food. You're less active because you're tired and moody, and so you end up burning less calories, and so you just end up rapidly spiraling, gaining way more body fat and having all these issues as a result of having overly high estrogen. That's going to be one of the best ways that we're able to lower your water weight and your body fat, is by actually taking charge of this high estrogen level that happens to both men and women, which is one of the big reasons why people end up chronically gaining weight as they get older, is chronic levels of high cortisol and chronic levels of high estrogen. Okay. And again, for men, we're going to talk about this in a second, but estrogen actually attaches to receptors in your hypothalamus and signals to the hypothalamus to stop signaling to the testes to produce testosterone, which is why high estrogen is correlated with low testosterone, because the body says, hey, okay, we already have plenty of estrogen. We don't need to produce more testosterone to then convert to estrogen because there's too much estrogen. So let's lower testosterone. And that also contributes to erectile dysfunction, insomnia issues, sometimes actually even hair loss, which there's multiple reasons why hair loss happens in men. One of them is actually high dihydrotestosterone, but another one, and then obviously you have to be, genetically prone to male pattern baldness. But again, high estrogen can cause a lot of issues. You get, again, the insomnia, the low testosterone symptoms, the fat gain, the muscle loss, all that stuff, and just being bloated, tired, moody, and gaining fat, okay? And then obviously after all of this happens, you get jaded towards fitness. You become even less motivated, especially if you have multiple failed attempts. You become a shadow of your former self. So again, we've talked at length about the problems. Let's talk about the solutions. So how do you fix all of the above, okay? First off, you need to learn how to handle stress better, which we're going to talk about today, and time manage and carve out time for being active. Okay, so it could be the gym. It could be doing outside workouts. It could be doing bodyweight workouts at home. It could be walking. It could be more active. It could be taking your kids to the park. It could be taking up a sport that you used to do, obviously at a more moderate level so you don't hurt yourself, whatever it may be. Okay. As you get older, you have to develop time management life skills. Okay. So just like how when you get older, you need to learn how to do your taxes. When you get older, you also need to learn how to manage your time. Okay. And of course, if you're a business owner, you probably have somebody who you've hired to do your taxes, right? And I'm a big fan of delegating. So likewise, you can also hire somebody to help you with your time management, whether it's an executive assistant, whether it's a coach, whatever it may be, to help. But for those who do not have that luxury as far as, financially, or just maybe it makes more sense to do it yourself, you have to learn these skills if you want to be an adult. Same thing with meal prep. Maybe you could hire a company, maybe you could hire a chef, maybe your wife is down to cook for you, or, a family member or husband or whatever. But the point is, you got to be in a position where you know how to do these things for yourself, because then you can more effectively manage the person you've delegated to, because you understand the process yourself. Okay. So these are life skills you need to learn as you get older. Okay. As we fix stress cravings and it becomes easier to not overeat, you're gonna crave less unhealthy foods, because we've again fixed the stress levels, right? So again, we fix the stress, we fix the cravings. It's easier to not overeat. And then you also make the connection between healthy eating and having more energy, and we're able to replace the unhealthy cravings with healthy recipes and alternatives, and then develop time-efficient meal prep strategies that take less time than even Uber Eats and eating out. So if you say, hey, I don't have time to meal prep, great. Okay, how long does it take to actually go to the restaurant, eat out, come back, or even to order on Uber Eats and scroll and figure out what you want? The reality is, Whenever somebody says they don't have time for something, it's because they are not making it a priority and because they're being lazy, okay? We all have 168 hours a week, which is 24 hours a day times 7 days a week is 168 hours. Why is somebody else's 168 hours infinitely more productive than yours? Why do I have clients who have 4 kids, 6 kids, 3 kids, 2 kids, work 80 to 100 hours a week? I've got clients with far crazier schedules than yours who are more successful at these things than you. And I'm telling you this to inspire you and get you to ask yourself the question, instead of making excuses like, oh, whatever, that person's lucky, whatever, that's a dumb excuse. No, I want your mind to now say, how? How does a person do this? I work 40 hours and I only have 2 kids. Why am I struggling with this? Okay. I only work 60 hours. This guy's working 80 hours. I've only got 4 kids. This guy has 6 kids. How are they finding the time to do this? I'll tell you why. It's the mindset. It's the commitment. Okay. I have a guy who has 6 kids and he works in the hospital. I'm not going to, give any other personal details about him other than the fact he's in his 40s, but I'm not going to say his name just because, confidential details. But again, how is this guy able to start taking more action with his fitness? Well, it was a struggle for him and it continues to sometimes be a struggle for him. But why? He shows up with the attitude of, let's solve this problem every single day. He doesn't come in with the attitude of, how do I find an excuse so I don't have to do the work and then I can blame it on the fact that I don't have time to have all these kids, all that stuff. Because that's what most people do. Most people are like, hey, let me look for a scapegoat to blame so I don't have to do the work. I don't have time. Number one excuse, oh, my genetics. Oh, I'm depressed. People find up with all kinds of excuses. But the reality is, you're either going to find a way in or you're going to find a way out. And the thing I love about this guy is he always finds a way in. He's like, hey, you know what? I screwed up on this, this, and this, but at least I'm doing this. Be patient with me. And I love that because I am patient with him and we're going to figure it out. And we are figuring it out just like how we always figure it out with everybody, right? So again, no matter what situation you're dealing with, whether you got newborn triplets, whatever you got going on that's making it hard for you, understand that difficulty exists, but do not let that be an excuse or an obstacle. Instead, keep moving forward and be inspired. Make it a point to take action despite these obstacles and to be tenacious and never give up so that you can prove to that weak voice in your mind that you are going to be successful no matter what, and so you can kick shaitan to the curb and ultimately live out the greatest purpose for the sake of Allah, which we always talk about in the other videos, and how fitness is actually a means by which you'll become closer with Allah, become a better and more disciplined Muslim, and honor the body that He gave you, inshallah. Okay. So anyways, the point being, Uber Eats, eating out, it doesn't take as much energy as meal prep, okay? But it takes actually less time than how much time you're wasting going to restaurants, Uber Eatsing, whatever else you're doing. It's not that you don't have time, it's that you don't have energy. And guess what's going to fix your energy levels? Working out, being consistent with your fitness, getting healthy. So that's what we're going to keep doing. So let's keep diving into this training, okay? So when you get more consistent with working out and you get more consistent with, prepping healthy, convenient meal prep foods, you're going to burn more calories because you're working out more consistently and you're going to consume less calories, which means that you're going to start losing weight, even if you don't have a structured plan. Now, of course, if you want to lose a specific amount of body fat in a specific amount of time and get this huge transformation, you are going to need a structured plan, and this is always going to be best. However, for just maintaining or just for getting some slow results over time, you can easily just put together a flexible set of systems, rhythms, and principles, and this is actually best because it's very sustainable. Once you've lost the weight, we do a transition phase to ensure that, you're able to keep the weight off for life without having to be super diligent about your tracking and your numbers and all that other stuff. And even in the transformation process, some people need to baby step into it and not necessarily start with a very structured plan, but then over time add that structure. Versus some people are like, all right, boom, all in, got a wedding coming up, whatever it may be, got a specific date coming up, got a photo shoot, got a content shoot for my business, whatever it may be, let's lose this specific amount of weight, boom, or got this important meeting or, reunion or whatever it may be, right? Okay. The next step is we need to optimize our nutrition for digestion and energy levels because when we get older, our stomach becomes more sensitive. And when we start to improve our digestion, this has a lot of hormonal benefits on both our cortisol and our estrogen and bringing those down, which again, for women is going to improve progesterone to estrogen ratio, so you're not estrogen dominant. And for men is going to improve testosterone to estrogen ratio so that you are functioning with the hormones that a man should have as opposed to, having all these hormones that are making you bloated and tired and not masculine and all these other things, right? And all the other side effects I talked about previously, like the ED, the fat gain, the muscle loss, the lack of energy, libido, virility, the moodiness, the mood swings, all that stuff that happens when men have high estrogen and high body fat, which leads to high estrogen, as I described before, with the whole aromatase enzyme converting testosterone into estrogen and aromatase being a part of your fat cells, okay? Now, the next step that's going to help you is strength training and optimizing your sleep. This is going to boost your growth hormone levels even as you get older, and it's also going to improve your nutrient partitioning and your insulin sensitivity, which is going to help massively with reversing the aging process and ultimately putting yourself in a position where you start to look and feel younger than you are instead of looking and feeling older than you are, okay? Lifting weights also boosts a man's testosterone levels. It also boosts a woman's testosterone levels. But again, like, for women, it's extremely hard to get jacked and bulky. Even for a lot of men, they struggle to get big and jacked and bulky. So, for a woman who naturally has, a fraction of the testosterone levels that a man does, you're not going to get all masculine and stuff. So all these women who think that they're going to like get jacked and masculine very quickly if they start lifting weights, there's a lot of guys who wish that the process was that fast, but it's not. It takes a lot of time to build muscle, and for most women, you just don't have the genetics to get bulky to where you're just going to end up looking nice and toned when you lift weights, okay? And then for men, obviously, if you want to get jacked, you can, but it takes time. But I think most men watching this are just like, hey, let me just look and feel younger than I am. So let's go ahead and do that and ultimately make that happen, inshallah. So again, lifting weights is going to help you to boost your testosterone levels, and it's going to improve your insulin sensitivity, whether you're a man or a woman, okay? Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to reduce bloating and build muscle, which is going to help optimize your metabolism. Because like I said, when you have more muscle on your frame, it burns calories, and this is going to help you a lot, okay? Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we're eating foods that reduce estrogen, that lower inflammation, and one of the biggest things that's going to do this is fiber, okay? And it's going to help us to reduce excess estrogen. And then what you can also do is you can supplement zinc, and this also helps with improving testosterone, getting rid of excess estrogen, etc., okay? Now, another thing is obviously losing body fat. You're going to drop estrogen naturally, which is going to make you, produce less estrogen, and then that's going to make you produce less body fat and help you lose fat more easily, and that's going to help you have even less estrogen. So we're in a positive spiral now as opposed to the negative spiral of gaining body fat, having more estrogen, as a result gaining more water weight and gaining more body fat, and then having even more estrogen, just this negative spiral that happens when you're just gaining weight year after year after year. And we need to take charge of this process and fix it. Otherwise, it's going to have mental consequences, energy levels consequences, physical body consequences, libido consequences, all kinds of negative things that's going to happen to you, okay? And then lastly, as you become more educated and more motivated towards fitness, as you gain more wisdom and you watch your body transform and everybody's complimenting you and telling you that you look and feel younger than you are, and you do look and feel younger than you are, mashallah, you're going to get more motivated every single year, and you become one of these people who's in their 40s and 50s who looks like they're in their 30s, in great shape, nice and toned, ripped, however, whatever shape you want to be in. And ultimately, everybody's like, uncle, how do I get fit? Auntie, how do I get fit? And then you get to inspire others, and it becomes a sadaqah jariyah for you, just like how this content becomes a sadaqah jariyah for me, because it helps people even after you die, because you've inspired people and made an impact, and you get to pass on a legacy of generational health as opposed to generational disease, okay? So if there was diabetes in your family for years and years and generations to come, it ends with you when you fix this, inshallah. And when you get these recipes dialed in, you're not passing down these oily recipes so that your kids and your grandkids have the exact same problems you have right now when they're older, but instead, they're so fit and healthy their whole life that they actually almost take it for granted. Just like generational wealth, kids grow up rich, sometimes they take it for granted. So likewise, you want to have your kids grow up healthy, and it just becomes just a part of who they are, and they never struggle with it like you did. And so I think ultimately we all want that for our progeny, right? Is to always be healthy. So let's talk about cortisol, okay? So excess cortisol as a result of chronic compounding stress is going to wreck both a man's hormones and a woman's hormones. It's going to lead to adrenal fatigue and a lot of other issues where your energy levels suck, every day feels like an uphill battle, you feel burnt out, all that stuff, okay? So we do not want to have excessive stress. And again, when your cortisol is up, this is correlated with lower testosterone in men. And also when your estrogen starts to go up, especially if you're like really bloated all the time and you're not excreting estrogen optimally and you're not eating enough fiber, which most people don't, and you're eating a lot of food that makes you bloated, you're going to start gaining more estrogen, retaining more water, lowers your testosterone, messes up your gut health. We're going to talk about fiber at length later today. And again, this can all increase estrogen because, again, your excretion of estrogen is poor and your absorption of estrogen is up because you're not eating enough fiber, and then that further compounds the problem and the body fat gain, and then subsequently more estrogen levels, as I talked about before. And then because you're so tired from having all this estrogen, you're so moody, you get more stress because when you're moody, you're less robust when it comes to stress, so it gets to your head better, so you get more stressed out because it gets into your head. But then also physically, you don't have energy, so every day is an uphill battle, so you just become burnt out, and it just becomes worse. Your cortisol is higher, your estrogen is higher. It's just this cocktail of negative hormones that you're marinating in every single day that's wrecking your quality of life. And then likewise, when a woman has too much cortisol, producing cortisol depletes the female body's ability to produce progesterone, which leaves estrogen unchecked and messes up your ratio. And then also, if you're not eating enough fiber and your estrogen is becoming very high, you become extremely estrogen dominant, which leads to rapid weight gain, a lot of water weight, subsequent fat gain over time, and just overall having a lot of issues, which is why women get a lot of hormonal weight gain issues. But when we get on, high fiber, high protein diet with complex carbs, low sugar, low fat, and we're working out consistently, we're getting in more step count, we've got a good support group around us, women can actually rapidly lose weight, which is amazing, mashallah. So now let's talk about how to handle stress better in 3 simple steps to solve this problem, inshallah. So when you feel stressed out, anxious, etc., I want you to use exercise, whether it's a walk outside, whether it's hitting the gym, whether it's doing some bodyweight stuff at home, whether it's doing, some stretching. Use exercise, physical movement. Even, again, if it's just going outside for a walk or inside for a walk or stretching, whatever it is, as a method to handle that stress, which gives you positive side effects instead of using food and other vices to handle that, which then give you negative side effects. Okay, so I can't tell you, I'm not going to name any specific names because we always got to conceal the sins of our fellow Muslims, but I've spoken to Muslims who are involved in haram vices, like whether it might be, alcohol, whether it might be weed, and people use this, shaitan baby steps them, and they're surrounded by disbelievers who baby step them into these negative habits and the social pressure and all stuff, and before they know it, they're a Muslim and they feel like a hypocrite because they're doing all these terrible haram things that also wreck your health. Like, there's many reasons why Allah made these things haram, and not only is one of them that it makes you likely to make bad decisions and engage in kufr or whatever it may be because it compromises your judgment, but it also wrecks your body. Alcohol just does a terrible number on the body. So whether it's food that you're using as a vice, which alhamdulillah, at least it's not haram, okay? In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, do not do destruction to yourselves by your own hands. So in that sense, if you're giving yourself diabetes and all that stuff, if you want to interpret that verse to apply to giving yourself diabetes by eating a bunch of unhealthy food and not learning about health and not taking the action to health and just making dua but not taking action, okay? Because, you have to add action to dua. You can't just say, oh, I'm making dua, it's my qadr, but I'm eating 10 plates of biryani a day. You have to make dua and then be disciplined with your nutrition and seek knowledge and learn and be better, okay? And be disciplined, okay? Just like how if you say, Allah, please help me wake up for Fajr, but then you don't set the alarm, you're not doing your part. So maybe Allah will wake you up for Fajr. It can happen, and sometimes it happens, but there's a high chance that you're not because you're not doing your part. Trust Allah, but tie your camel. So likewise, make dua, but then take action to lose weight as well, okay? So again, with the food, do not do destruction to yourself by your own hands. And of course, with the haram vices, sometimes you got to speak to a specific addiction counselor for this. But again, if we could start to use exercise as a means to overcome these things, I've had clients who were using nicotine prior to working with us. And now, because they're working out and they have a healthy outlet for their stress and they have some accountability and they're in a group, a positive, uplifting group, it has gotten them to overcome the nicotine addiction. And likewise, over the years, especially because before I specialized with Muslims, at the beginning of 2022, I worked with a lot of non-Muslims. I would always try to get my clients off of alcohol. And alhamdulillah, it always worked because we got them out of the stress. So we learned how to build confidence in themselves so they no longer felt the need to use harmful substance as a social lubricant or as a means to handle their stress that then gave them negative side effects, but instead they use something called exercise, which gives them positive side effects. So remember, look at the vices you're using in your life, whether it's food or whether it's something else, and look at the side effects of what that stress management tool is giving you, and then implement stress management tools that have positive side effects like exercise, like journaling, which we're going to talk about in point number 2, okay? Super, super important. Highly, highly recommended. And again, this is going to help you massively with just being able to take charge of your stress and cut out negative habits, okay? Number 2, implement positive habits, daily processes, rhythms, and rituals that help to boost your mood and reduce stress. Praying tahajjud, okay? Making dua, doing dhikr, journaling, gratitude. Gratitude is one of the best things you could possibly do to bring you closer with Allah and to help lower your stress levels, okay? So it's a double whammy. It makes you a better Muslim and it makes you better in the dunya, just in dunya priorities as well. Dhikr can also count as gratitude when you say it with the proper intention. So don't just say, oh, subhanAllah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. No, say, subhanAllah, glory be to Allah for everything He's given, everything He's created. Alhamdulillah, all praises to Allah for all the blessings He's given us. Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, right? All the different dhikr you say, don't just say it to say it. And look, sometimes we all check off the boxes when it comes to these things. We don't always have khushu in everything that we do, but let's strive for mindfulness, for khushu, for taqwa, so that we can ultimately get the benefits. And one of the greatest benefits from dhikr, obviously the greatest benefit is the good deeds, but the greatest dunya benefit is gratitude, and then that actually helps you be a better Muslim, so it's very beneficial, lowers your stress. Like I said before, walking and getting fresh air and sun outside, creating space, having a consistent bedtime, being more structured with your bedtime for both your bedtime routine for both yourself and for your kids, okay? This is going to improve your sleep quality. It's going to improve your quantity of sleep as well. It's going to improve your consistency with both your ibadah and the gym, which is all going to lower your cortisol and increase your quality of life. And then the third point on how to lower stress is you need to have boundaries with your time. If you're that person who constantly is getting pulled in every direction like a feather in the wind because you have zero boundaries with your time and your priorities, you're never going to be consistent with fitness. You're always going to be extremely stressed. You're going to have all kinds of issues, okay? So let's dive into the next point about time management, okay? So I'm gonna make this simple because I always make my videos too long because I always do like an in-depth section on time management, motivation, all that stuff. But essentially, if you want to have elite time management skills, make a list of all your priorities and every single outcome that needs to happen on a weekly basis between salat, prayer, Islamic priorities, between work priorities, between family priorities, and between the priorities of your body, okay? What meal prep needs to happen? What exercise workouts need to happen, okay? Plug them into your schedule and be strategic. I like to put them first thing in the day so that nothing comes that will stop me from doing it, okay? Or less likely to have anything come up that's going to stop me from doing it. Schedule in your prayers and your workouts like it's a meeting. Schedule in your meal prep like it's a meeting. That way you don't miss these meetings, just like I wouldn't miss a meeting for work or a meeting, after school with you, for your kids with the teacher. Likewise, you're not going to miss that appointment with yourself, but you have to train that personal integrity to not miss appointments with yourself. Hold just as strong of a boundary with yourself as you would for your work. Just like how you'll get fired from your job or you'll lose a client in your business if you don't show up to a work meeting, you got to show up to the meetings for yourself or you're going to start to fall off the path. And don't worry, even if you start to fall off the path, fix it. But I'm just saying, don't fall off the path in the first place. Now, I have a 1-hour video on how to get fit while working a 9-to-5. I have some in-depth time management videos for business owners. I have an in-depth time management section on my fat loss after Ramadan video. I've literally got so many time management videos on my YouTube channel, as well as so many different videos where I just break down time management while I'm talking about another topic. So check out those other videos. Otherwise, this video for sure is going to be 2 hours if I go into the depths of time management. So again, see my other videos for more on time management. Okay, so what's next? Replace bad eating habits with positive ones. 3 simple steps, okay? Make a list of all your favorite foods and find healthy alternatives. Obviously, we have a recipe creation process we do for our clients, and we do have some new recipes and recipe books coming out soon. And what I'll do is, if you're watching this on Instagram, drop a comment with the word recipe, and I'll send you the free 45-page recipe book, inshallah. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll attach it in the description. Remind me if you don't see it in the comments as well, inshallah. Okay? Healthy snacks. So when it comes to healthy snacks, obviously like any kind of processed food is going to have, additives, artificial sweeteners, all that stuff. But it's still better to have like a Quest protein bar, okay? Quest protein bar. We have a Quest protein bar right here. Hopefully you guys can see it, right? Quest protein bar. It still has processed ingredients in it, but it's still better than eating like a Hershey's bar or a Twix, okay? So, because at least you're getting protein and at least the calories are only 200, and at least it's going to be more filling and satiating. So it's the lesser of two evils. And I do eat, probably at least one of these every single day. And I've still gotten great results. And alhamdulillah, my digestion's still good. But you also got to find a protein bar that works for you that doesn't mess with your digestion, because that's another point we're covering today is digestion, okay? So remember, the principle behind these recipes, these snacks, all these things is that we're increasing protein and lowering calories and having a better protein to calorie ratio, okay? And the quick rule of thumb for protein to calorie ratio is for every meal that you eat or every snack or food that you eat, okay? When I say food, obviously your rice is not going to have a good protein to calorie ratio, but that's why we have rice with, chicken or fish or whatever it may be. And then we look at the protein to calorie ratio. So it should be 1 to 10, okay? So for every gram of protein, there should be 10 calories max. So if you have a meal that has 50 grams of protein, what's 50 times 10? 500, okay? So a meal that has 50 grams of protein should have no more than 500 calories, okay? And that is how you succeed with your diet. Because let's say that you weigh 200 pounds and you want to eat 200 grams of protein a day, multiply by 10, that's 2,000 calories a day. Well, that's pretty close to maintenance, especially, and then obviously if your activity levels are high enough, you could be 200 pounds and burning 2,500, 3,000 calories a day, which means you're losing a pound or 2 of fat per week. And for the math on that, see my last video on YouTube where I talk about the math behind fat loss, okay, and how sustainable calorie deficit works. So if you're eating 2,000 delicious, satiating calories a day of foods where you don't feel hungry, you don't feel deprived because you're eating these healthy recipes like what I have in the recipe book, and you've understood the recipe creation process to make your own recipes healthy, or you're working with us and just have me and my team doing it for you, and you're eating a proper protein and calorie ratio. So again, for the 200-pound man, that might be 200 grams of protein and 2,000 calories depending on his goals. Well, guess what? Now you're losing weight and you have a good rule of thumb to follow. So now whenever you're at the store and you're looking at the nutrition facts, let's say something says, oh, protein chips. You see this thing that says, oh, high protein, and you open it and it says 10 grams of protein, but it has 170 calories. You're like, hey, that's cap. That's BS. It says high protein. They're marketing it as high protein because a lot of healthy foods or health foods are marketed as healthy foods. But if you actually look at the nutrients and the ingredients, they're actually quite unhealthy. Okay, and I'll do a video inshallah in the future on how to read food labels and all that stuff. We already checked the labels for gelatin, for pork, for alcohol. So we also got to check the label for all these processed junks that might be causing issues, especially if we know specifically what makes us feel bloated. And also we want to check the nutrition label to make sure that it fits that protein to calorie ratio. Or if we're putting together a meal, obviously the carb source and the veggie source are not going to have much protein in it, but we're pairing it with a protein source, like again, chicken, fish, whatever it may be, that allows us to then get that protein to calorie ratio and have delicious recipes that taste amazing. And that's the principle that all of our recipes follow, except for the French fries one. But that's why you pair the French fries with, some kind of protein source, right? And then the okra one too. Again, it's a veggie source. We have an okra recipe, but you pair that with, a protein source and a carb source. So anyways, the beautiful thing is that as you cut out foods that make you bloated and you start eating foods that energize you, which again, a low fat, low sugar, high fiber, high protein, medium complex carbs diet is what I find works best for most people, especially as you get older. This will give you amazing energy levels and help you to lose fat and build muscle. So it's the best of all worlds for having the best results possible. One thing I forgot to mention in the slides here is that, as you get older, you become less efficient at absorbing protein. And there's a number of things you can do to do this, but one of the best things you can do is be extra proactive about having a high protein diet, okay? But the cool thing is once you start eating in this way and you start to notice your digestion is better, your energy levels are infinitely better, and your quality of life is better, you now develop a positive association and habit associated with healthy eating, and you develop a negative association with junk food that makes you feel like crap. And so you start not even wanting to eat junk food. You see some ice cream, you see some deep fried oily stuff, and it doesn't even look good to you because the 10 or 20% pleasure that you gain from eating it is not worth the 100% pain where your energy levels are destroyed for the next 2-3 days from eating that junk, because you learn what it feels like to feel optimized. And that is the best way to build healthy eating habits. That is why our clients have such a high success rate, is because we work on food quality, not just food quantity. Other people tell you, hey, just track your macros, here's your calories. And not only is that stressful because now you're like, okay, well, I don't really have much structure, I don't really have a plan. But instead we're like, hey, here's a structured plan, here's how to meal prep it, here's recipes, what are your favorite foods? Okay, cool, here's some recipes that we created for you. Boom, now you're able to then stick to it very easily once you learn the meal prep side of things, which again takes less time than Uber Eats. It just requires that discipline, that energy to initiate the process until it becomes an easy part of your weekly rhythm that you look forward to. You can incorporate your kids in it too, where you're spending time with the family, having fun cooking together, or whatever it may be, barbecuing with dad, barbecuing with mom, whatever it may be. And that's going to help you to make it a sustainable part of your lifestyle that you actually look forward to and enjoy. That's also a non-negotiable because you're like, hey, I got a busy week coming up. I better make sure I meal prep so I don't end up eating junk this week and having no energy to perform and all the busy stuff I need to do this week. You're like, hey, because I have a busy week, I better meal prep so I have healthy food, so I have the energy to perform at all the things I'm going to be so busy with, so these things don't end up taking longer and completely wrecking my quality of life because, work is bleeding into personal time now because I'm not getting my work done in the time that I need because I don't have energy. No, you're going to have energy so you get your work done in the time that you have to get it done, and now your schedule is infinitely more efficient. And as your bloating goes down, your cortisol levels drop, you feel way better, you see a dramatic improvement in your quality of life, your energy levels, your productivity, and your hormones. And again, we're going to talk about fiber later in this video. Very important topic. A lot of people on Instagram said they want to learn more about that today, so we're going to talk about it today. Now, once you develop more consistency, okay, let's talk a little bit about having a structured plan versus maintenance. So for transformation, right, like a specific amount of weight loss in a specific amount of time, like 20 to 30 pounds in 90 days, you do, or 6-pack in 6 months, whatever it may be, you need a very specific, structured, and detailed plan in order to guarantee this result. Now, if you just want to generally lose weight, lose a couple pounds, lose a couple inches, feel a little bit better, you don't really need much structure, if at all. Again, if you don't have a specific time or weight loss target, you just want to generally lose a couple pounds a week, or a couple pounds a month, or whatever, every couple of weeks or whatever, or you want to lose that first 10, 20 pounds, you don't need a whole lot of structure. Just follow these principles and you'll be good to go. Same thing for maintenance. To maintain, you don't necessarily need a whole lot of structure. You just need the principles that we talk about. However, if you want to break through a plateau, let's say that you took the general approach and you lost your first 10, 20, 30, or even 40 or 50 pounds on your own through the simple guidelines and not much structure, just by building better habits and feeling better and all that stuff I just talked about. But now you hit a plateau. It's time to capitalize on the progress you've already seen before you get demotivated and lose that progress and gain all the way back. And we need to get you back in momentum, which requires structure to break through that plateau and achieve the exact perfect structured numbers to lose a very specific amount of weight loss, okay? And so, again, like I said, once you've lost the weight, it's very easy to maintain when you use a proper transition phase. Again, if you use the proper method to transition off the weight, or to transition off the weight loss phase, you'll see a lot of success. And I have other videos on the specific calorie deficit numbers for the structured plan. And I do talk about like the transition phase in some of my videos, including the program info video, which I'll attach below because obviously we will be able to do all that structure for you. If you're looking at this slide right now on YouTube or you're listening to this and you're like, hey, you know what? I benefit from having some structure. This guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Let me check this guy out. Click over to the program info link. You're going to see testimonials, an overview of the program, pricing as well. And then if it's within your budget and you're in a position where, time is more valuable to you than money, then obviously you want us to help you achieve this in a shorter amount of time. Sign up for a consultation. And if you're in a position where money might be a little bit tight, so money is worth a little bit more to you than time, and you want to kind of figure this out for yourself, even if it takes longer, go through all my free videos. It teaches you pretty much everything you need to know to do this on your own if, time is, money is more valuable to you than time. But if time is more valuable to you than money, then just hire us to do this for you. Okay. So anyways, so I talk about the transition phase in that video as well as in some of my other videos. Let's go on to how to optimize for digestion, how this affects our hormones. So we talked about this a little bit before, but just to review it, when our digestion is wrecked from foods that bloat us, and this often happens with processed foods because there's a lot of like just chemical additives in these foods that make us bloated, that our body has trouble digesting and processing. But also a lot of people get digestion issues from soy, from dairy, from gluten, from oily, fatty foods. Even seed oils can potentially cause quite a bit of inflammation. Hey, sugar, a lot of people notice that. And of course, when we don't get enough fiber, we end up getting really bloated. Obviously, this can cause issues. So test out cutting those foods from your diet and then adding them back in and see if it helps your inflammation and your bloating if you cut out those foods, and then see if the inflammation and the bloating comes back when you add those foods back in. And that'll give you plenty of internal motivation to stay away from those foods because you're like, wow, I ate that and I felt like crap. I cut that out and I felt great. Guess what? I'm going to stick to not eating that because I don't want to feel like crap. Super easy, super simple. I don't even need to hold you accountable, right? Nobody needs to hold you accountable. You're going to hold yourself accountable because you want to feel good. You don't want to feel like crap. It's very easy, okay? So again, when we're eating foods that are making us chronically bloated, cortisol and estrogen levels go up, which is going to reduce testosterone. And for women, it's going to mess with the progesterone to estrogen ratio, and you become estrogen dominant. And again, when our body is bloated, our digestive tract is broken, or not broken, bloated, which you could say broken because it's not optimal. We want to fix it. We want to fix your gut health. Okay, you can't really excrete excess estrogen, which again leads to hormonal weight gain in women because the progesterone to estrogen balance is off, causes a man's testosterone to go down and a man to gain body fat and water weight and have other symptoms where their libido goes down, their sleep quality isn't that good, their mood is messed up, their energy levels suck, all that stuff. The mood, energy, libido, and irregularity with your periods can also affect women too if your hormones are off and you're either estrogen dominant or your cortisol is too high, or you're overtraining, doing too much cardio, eating too little, working out too much. All these things can happen. And again, these are all associated with bloating, high cortisol, and high estrogen. And as you get older, you need to be more careful because your stomach is more sensitive. Your GI tract is more sensitive, so it's easier for you to get bloated and have a lot of these issues. And your hormones are also more sensitive and less robust versus when you're a kid, you're in puberty, your growth hormone levels are high, your sex hormone levels are really high. You can eat whatever you want and you're in amazing shape and look and feel great all the time, right? Now, so again, as you get older, avoid all foods that make you bloated. Per the previous point on healthy eating, test it out on yourself. You can also look into low FODMAPs diet. If you go on Google and you search low FODMAPs diet, I'll probably do a video on that soon, but it's an easy Google search away to quickly gain the information. There are actually a lot of foods that could be considered healthy that also could cause some bloating. For instance, broccoli. So broccoli is great because actually it has anti-estrogenic effects. It has something in it called indole 3-carbinol, which helps to flush excess estrogen from the body. However, broccoli stalks, the whole broccoli, but especially the stalk, has a lot of highly fermentable carbohydrates that can cause you to become very gassy and bloated. And I personally avoid broccoli because it makes me so bloated and gassy that it's not worth any, anti-estrogen benefits I would have achieved otherwise. I like to use carrots as my super anti-estrogenic fiber source, but I just eat a lot of fiber in general, like mixed veggies, green beans, peas. I've incorporated it into my diet to where I really enjoy it. Occasionally I'll eat salads, but not a whole lot. If somebody makes a good salad, I'll eat it, right? But I don't really make salads a whole lot myself. But, I like salads and they definitely help too, just as long as, there's certain things that are not in that salad, such as broccoli. Kale's all right, but I'm not the biggest fan of the taste. Spinach can be cool sometimes, but, mixed veggies, especially like the Trader Joe's frozen mixed veggies that doesn't have any oil or sugar or any junk in it, is very good, and I put that on the side of a lot of my meals. And you don't have to get it from Trader Joe's. I got it at like Safeway, Vaughn's. Costco doesn't have the best mixed veggie blends, at least the one in my area, unfortunately. But again, find some mixed veggies that you like. I like frozen veggies because you just microwave them and they steam. Now, some people might be like, oh, microwave radiation. So yeah, you don't have to. You can also boil it, right? Microwave's convenient for me. And, there may be some negative effects to microwave, but none that I've seen. Maybe they're more long-term and chronic as you get older. So obviously, if you can avoid the microwave, do it. But I personally use the microwave pretty much every day. And alhamdulillah, I'm fine. I know people in their 60s who use the microwave every day and who are in incredible health. I even know a professional bodybuilder who's super shredded, healthy, everything. And he uses the microwave like 6 times a day because he eats 6 times a day. You don't have to eat 6 times a day if you want to be fit. That's just what he likes to do. Cool. So strength training, growth hormone, testosterone, and nutrient partitioning. Let's talk about the benefits of strength training, okay? So strength training is going to boost your testosterone levels and your growth hormone levels, and it's going to improve your nutrient partitioning and insulin sensitivity. So let me explain what all of these different terms mean, okay? So first off, when you have more muscle, your metabolism goes up because muscle burns calories every single day. It's like a rental property where as long as you maintain it, it's burning calories every single day. Just like our rental property, if you maintain it, you have a tenant in there, you're getting paid every single, month by that tenant. So likewise, your muscle is burning calories every single day. The problem is if you don't take care of your muscle mass and you don't maintain your muscle mass, even if you were an athlete when you were younger, or even if you weren't an athlete when you were younger, but you just gained some muscle during puberty, guess what? You're going to start to lose that muscle as you get older, especially if you're sitting in a desk all day long every single day. And this is one of the biggest reasons why metabolism goes down as you get older, more so than age itself. If you equate for muscle mass, a 65-year-old's metabolism isn't that much slower than a 25-year-old's if you have the same amount of muscle, but the average 65-year-old has a lot less muscle than he or she would have at age 25 because you're going to deteriorate unless you train. Now, on the flip side, if you build more muscle as you get older, that's part of how you reverse the aging process and you become better as you get older because you're just gaining muscle, so your metabolism gets faster as long as you're doing all these other things. So it's very key that you build and maintain muscle to keep your metabolism optimal and also to keep your strength on point, like bone mineral density, especially for women after the age of 50. Very important you dial this in your 30s and 40s so you're good in your 50s. And if you're already in your 50s, you can still build, just build a little bit slower. This is going to help you to prevent osteoporosis, inshallah. Okay? Strength, very important to build strength because guess what? It's cool to have a great physique when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s, whatever. But guess what's even more cool than that? Not slipping and dying at age 90 in the shower. Okay, one of my mentors once said that. So I had this mentor, he was actually this YouTube celebrity who I used to train in LA. I actually lived at his house for a year and a half. Amazing guy, mashallah. Allah really blessed me when he put this guy in my life. But the thing is, this guy was 41 when I met him. Okay, I think 40 or 41. Okay, and I think now he's like 42 or 43. And what ended up happening was he actually said this in one of his videos, and what he always told me was his biggest thing was longevity, avoiding injury, more so than just the weight loss itself when I was training him. And that's part of why he chose me to be his trainer, because I'm really big on like injury preventative body work. He had a shoulder injury when I met him, and I was able to kind of work on him when I met him, and that's why he was like, boom, I need to get this guy, to live here and be my celebrity trainer, because again, I was able to relieve his shoulder pain through some of the manual therapies that I learned over the years. The thing is, obviously with all my online clients, because I don't really do anything in person anymore, it's all online, I can't manually work on you, but what I have people do is foam rolling, stretching, all that other stuff, which makes you way more functional, avoid injury. But then we're also doing functional strength exercises as part of our plan so that you're developing functional strength so you don't slip and die in the shower at age 90, okay? And that's what he always said was, it's cool to be jacked in my 40s, but I'd rather, what's even cooler than that is not slipping and dying in the shower when I'm 90, okay? So, and it's not a laughing matter actually, but it just sounds a little extreme right now, but I'm sure some of us know a family member who this happened to, and may Allah have mercy on them and give them Jannah. I mean, so build that bone mineral density and functional strength. And then I was going to also explain what insulin sensitivity and nutrient partitioning are. So let's talk about nutrient partitioning. So growth hormone, when you have naturally high growth hormone levels, your body naturally partitions more of the nutrients you eat towards muscle and less towards fat storage. When your growth hormone levels decline as you get older, when your insulin sensitivity goes down as you get older, again, if you don't take care of it by strength training, working out, being mindful of your diet, avoiding, excess sugars and, processed sugars, especially all that stuff, then, what happens is that if your insulin sensitivity is low, then, you're going to be eating all these carbs and your body's going to be producing all these insulin, and you might end up, developing type 2 diabetes. And also you're probably going to end up gaining a lot of body fat. And same thing, if you're not nutrient partitioning optimally, you could eat the same steak that a bodybuilder is going to eat. The bodybuilder eats steak and he gets bigger and stronger because his insulin sensitivity is on point and his nutrient partitioning is on point, or the female fitness competitor or whatever, right? But you eat that same steak and your body just stores pretty much all of it as fat. Why? Because your nutrient partitioning is off and your insulin sensitivity is off. When you start training consistently, strength training, resistance training, whether it's calisthenics, home bodyweight workouts, or whether it's in the gym with weights, which is better, but both of them are 1,000% better than nothing, okay? Now you become that one who now you're eating steak and your body's just gaining muscle from it, or chicken, or whatever you want to eat, as opposed to gaining fat from it, okay? So that is, and not just gaining muscle, but repairing muscle too. When you're constantly working out, your body's constantly repairing muscle, which helps you to, weirdly enough, as long as you don't overdo it, have more energy during the day, but then sleep deeper at night. So it's pretty amazing, subhanAllah. Okay, we're going to go into a couple more points. Bloating versus estrogen versus fiber versus testosterone versus body fat. I have 2 more slides on fiber that we're going to dive into. But again, just to kind of touch on the estrogen point a little bit deeper. So we already established we want to cut out foods that make you bloated, and we want to increase your fiber intake, because increased fiber intake reduces estrogen absorption and increases estrogen excretion, which is going to help us to bring down that high estrogen, which, as we've established, is causing you to retain a bunch of water, potentially gain body fat, especially if you're eating excessive calories and not moody, all this other stuff. So we can improve that by getting in fiber, so we're absorbing less estrogen from our diet and we're excreting more estrogen from our colon, okay? High fiber diets are actually associated with a lower risk of breast cancer, and you're going to notice that whether you're a man or a woman, you feel way less bloated and you start losing water weight right away as you get rid of that gunk in your gut. And, instead of not eating enough fiber, getting motility issues, being bloated all the time, and you're eating all these greasy, nasty, unhealthy foods and foods that make you bloated that are just stuck in your gut, making your belly distended, making it hard for you to even have energy to lose weight. Instead, you're flushing these foods out and you're boosting the fiber in your diet. It's going to make a huge difference very quickly. And then, like I said, estrogen makes you retain water, so you're going to lose a lot of water weight right away. Now, it's important to note that sufficient dietary magnesium, a healthy liver, etc., are also very important for excreting estrogen. And, speaking of, let's see. Oh, yeah. Sorry, my camera is like blocking the thing. But speaking of supplements, zinc is also very good, as I mentioned before. Vitamin D is also very good so zinc and vitamin D boost testosterone for men, very helpful. And most of us are vitamin D deficient, whether our body is, utilizing, whether we're not getting enough vitamin D, which is very common if we're not going outside enough, and especially if we have darker skin and we're living in a climate where there's not a lot of sun. Whether you're in the UK, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in the North US, or whether you're in the East Coast and it's, cloudy for a lot of the year, you're not getting enough sun. Even if you live in California, maybe if you don't go outside enough, right? Whatever it may be, or Texas and you're not going outside enough, guess what? If you're brown, you're from Pakistan, or you're from the Middle East, or whatever it may be, or you're from, Africa, maybe you're Somali or Ethiopian or Sudanese, your body needs way more, sunlight than that. And so you're going to be vitamin D deficient, but also our body might be just, utilizing vitamin D faster than we're supplying it. So it's good to supplement vitamin D. It's good for your immune system. It's good for your testosterone levels for, both men and women. I mean, the rabbit hole with supplements goes very deep, so we won't talk about supplements today, but this could really help. And I actually have some supplements that I recommend, but again, I just go with zinc and vitamin D and magnesium. This will be great for helping to get rid of, excess estrogen, to help improve testosterone, all that stuff, right? And as I mentioned before, high estrogen also has negative effects on a man's testosterone levels because it hits your hypothalamus, and then that signals to your pituitary gland to stop signaling to your testes to produce testosterone as much. And so that's why it negatively affects a man's testosterone levels. And then also, when you have excess body fat, you have more aromatase enzyme, which is in your adipose tissue, your body fat. And so what that does is it converts testosterone into estrogen, and then that estrogen signals your hypothalamus to stop producing testosterone. And so you end up losing your youthful virility. You end up gaining body fat. Versus when you fix this and you're flushing out estrogen, your testosterone goes up and you boost your youthful virility and lose body fat, which compounds in a positive direction instead of compounding in a negative direction. So anyways, now that you already love the benefits of fiber, let me tell you three more benefits of fiber, and then we're going to go into what fiber sources you should eat. So if you don't get fiber, again, you're going to be very bloated and possibly constipated, and your body becomes more efficient at absorbing estrogen, less efficient at excreting it. When you eat more fiber, your estrogen drops, which is also why you're going to get weight loss, fat loss, more energy. The other reason why it improves your energy level is because your gut bacteria actually produces short-chain fatty acids from that fiber, which is then going to improve your energy levels, your body works more efficiently, you're going to lose more water weight, more bloating, you're going to have more energy, better digestion, overall, just your health and your energy and everything becomes better, okay? And you lose more fat, and because you have more energy, you're moving more, you're burning more calories, so everything becomes better. So what fiber sources should you eat? Carrots, green beans, spinach and kale, asparagus, cucumbers, zucchini, yellow squash, green squash, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, raw shredded carrots, green peas, okra, aka bindi, right? Mixed veggies. These are all, that's 12 sources of veggies that you could do, or fiber. Now, do you have to eat all of these? No. If there's anything on there that you don't like or that bloats you, don't eat it, okay? Never force yourself to eat something you don't like. Rather, learn how to make healthy foods taste good so that you want to eat healthy foods and you get the energy benefits, which then compounds that desire to keep eating healthy and motivates you, okay? So again, I don't touch broccoli, I don't touch cauliflower. I'm not the biggest fan of Brussels sprouts, but I eat plenty of carrots, green beans, some spinach, some kale, but usually not the most. Asparagus is all right. Sometimes I like it. Depends on what I'm pairing it with, but I don't do it a whole lot. Cucumbers, yeah, when I'm given cucumbers, I eat them. I actually really like them, but I don't really prep them much. Squash, I like. It's decent. Might make me a little bit bloated, but it's not, a significant issue. Peas, I really like. Mixed veggies, I like. Okra, I really like. I don't cook it as often because it does. I mean, the way I like to cook it takes a little bit of time, right? I just like to put the mixed veggies, heat them up, either microwave or boil. Boom. Super easy, super delicious. So I'm all about convenience and time efficiency. Okay? And like I said with the meal prep, watch my other video on how to meal prep to learn how efficient that can be. It'll actually save you more time than eating out and doing Uber Eats, okay? And that way time is no longer an excuse. It's just a matter of priorities and having the discipline to implement, okay? And lastly, speaking of learning all these new skills, education and motivation. Knowledge is power. As you learn all of this stuff and you start applying and you start feeling better right away and you start seeing results thereafter, it's going to motivate you. And even the moment that you start feeling better from eating healthy, before you've seen a single result, a single pound on the scale, a single inch on your waist, just from feeling better, you're going to get more motivated because you're eating foods that make you physically feel good, more energy, less bloating, okay? And instead of decaying, becoming jaded, and putting on more weight and an ever-expanding waistline as you get older and becoming more and more jaded after failed attempt after failed attempt, the opposite happens. You become more motivated and better shape as you get older. 40 becomes the new 20, 50 becomes the new 30, and you practically reverse the aging process. So this is why I'm passionate about this subject. So in conclusion, managed to get it under an hour, subhanAllah. I think reviewing the time management section was the key, although I did go on live tangents. But I hope that this training inspired you and educated you without going so deep on the details that I lost anybody or got any complaints like I did on the last video that was too long and too detailed. Okay? Got plenty of detailed breakdowns on sustainable calorie deficits, example, diet plans, a bunch of stuff on my channel. But just remember that regardless of which of my templates you go through, something custom to you is always the best, plus the structure, accountability, adjustments, and guidance of having a professional and an entire community and mastermind of other Muslim brothers or sisters like yourself. And so I'm going to attach our program info link below, which includes the pricing, because I want you guys to be able to go through and see if this is something you want to save up for or whether it's something you can afford right now. And ultimately, whenever the timing is right for you to join, I know it's going to be a total game changer for you because you get a custom meal plan, custom recipes, custom training plan, depending on what your equipment is, technique reviews to make sure you're doing it properly, accountability from my team who checks whether you did your workouts every single day. In addition to that, you also get a mastermind of brothers or sisters. Again, we have separate masterminds to keep things Islamically appropriate. A mastermind for brothers, a mastermind for sisters, and each of them has its own unique, extremely powerful vibe that is amazing because you're surrounded by other high achievers, other successful people who are willing to invest a significant chunk of capital into their fitness, who take it seriously. But the quality of people you get who invested that much into their fitness, who take action every single day, is a quality of successful, driven, personal development-oriented individual who is the best Muslim they can be, who's the best they can be in fitness and health, who's the best that they can be in mindset, who's the best they can be in their professional life, their business, their work, who's the best they can be in their family life, their relationship, whatever it may be. And because you're surrounded by amazing, high-quality people like that, it elevates you in every single way, which is infinitely more valuable than even the fitness transformation itself. And like I say all the time, when you get fit, it isn't just the body. The body is great. It looks cool. People like it, whatever. But what matters is that not only are you happy on the inside, but the thing that really impacts other people more so than how you look is your demeanor. Because when you look fit and you are fit, people say, that person respects himself. That person has discipline. That person has boundaries. All the qualities that I talked about building, discipline, boundaries, structure, knowledge, excellence, ihsan, pursuing that in every single thing that we do is developed along this journey of fitness. And that's infinitely more valuable than the physique, is the mindset you build along the way and how that makes you a better Muslim, a better professional, a better business owner, somebody who makes more money and makes more good deeds and is better with their family, because you become that highest quality, best version of you and reach your full potential in mind, body, spirit, soul, heart, everything. So if that's you, tap below for the info. If you're on Instagram, comment with the word M3 for the info, and inshallah, check that out. And if it ends up being out of budget, maybe it's out of budget and it's not, even if you save up, it's not something you can afford, right? Like maybe you're a student or you're living in, a country where the exchange rate isn't so good, whatever it may be, to USD. Don't worry. I still put out free content every single week because I want to educate the ummah, not only to bring awareness to our program because this is how I get clients, but also for those who can't afford the program, because let's say a certain percentage of the population of the program can afford the program, and a certain population percentage will never be able to afford it. Well, guess what? I don't want to just stop my impact at thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people who can afford it. I want to affect the millions of people all over the world who need this content to fix their health. And so ultimately what I want you to do is go through all this content on your own. Or even if you have the money, but you're like, I've seen one video from this guy, I don't know him well enough yet. Let me try on my own first. Let me see if I can even do this on my own. Let me get to know this guy better, watch more of his videos, go through all my free stuff, get some results in advance so that you have confidence and certainty that I can help you. Now, once you're convinced I can help you, then obviously check out the info, apply for a spot in the program, and inshallah, when we do our next intake, we'd be happy to have you. So if it's a good fit, of course, like personality-wise as well. But yeah, so if you found this training beneficial, informative, enlightening, applicable, please share with friends and family. And comment down below with any questions. Let's help the entire ummah to age gracefully and get better by the year instead of worse. May Allah give us all success. And inshallah, I'm excited to see your transformation and say mashallah at the amazing transformation that by the permission of Allah and through this knowledge and your discipline, implementation, hard work, and of course, the blessing and will of Allah, you're able to achieve it. So inshallah, I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I'm looking forward to your questions. And again, please share with friends and family. Anything else I can ever do for you, please let me know. Assalamu alaikum.